The New York Mets defeat the Philadelphia Phillies to win 3 out of 4 from this big-time series in Citizens Bank Park. One of the most dramatic regular season games we can remember in a long, long time. Let's talk about it right now. Well, welcome back to New York Sports Wicker Media. I am Watu-K99, and yes, I know we have the Sunday sports sermon earlier today, but I had to put out more content. After this Mets-Phillies game, this was worthy of a video all unto itself. Let's talk about this crazy game in Philly. You know, I actually thought about taking a plane today from Virginia to Philadelphia because you can fly from Norfolk to Philadelphia nonstop. Of course, the way that flights are nowadays, being airlines being short-staffed and whatnot, it is very difficult to get a round trip when you're flying standby like I have to. So that would have been a little bit of a long shot, and to be honest with you, it turned out for the best because based off what would have happened, there was no way I could have stayed for the entire game, and I would have been kicking myself harder if I actually went to this game today and wasn't able to stay for all 6 hours of this 9-inning game. A 9-inning game that went 6 hours. That's like Yankees Red Sox from back in the day. They'd always play the longest 9-inning games. This was just unbelievable. So let's talk about it a little bit. So you knew the fact that the Mets were starting the immortal Jose Butto. First start in his career, it was not going to be easy. Not against that offense, and especially not in Citizens Bank Park where, you know, home runs go to be born again, basically. So in the first inning, the Mets are already down 4-0. And right away, it's like, okay, this is not good. But you know what? The Mets, then they go after Kyle Gibson. And Michael Perez, 2-run single. He's shown as much with the bat as James McCann has in his whole Mets tenure. You know, Perez isn't known for being a good bat, and he may not have a lot of power, but you know what? Michael Perez gets some line drives. He's not terrible. I don't know. I'm not saying that I want him on the roster long term, but if he winds up being a backup, maybe that's okay. So Perez with the 2-run single, Daniel Vogelback with an RBI double. Fourth inning, Starling Marte with the RBI single, and the game is tied. Unfortunately, then in the bottom of the fourth, Alec Boehm hits his second home run of the game. This one a 3-run shot, bottom 4, and right away it's like, oof, this is not a good omen right here. It's like, especially after the doubleheader the previous day, where the Mets bullpen was just pretty beat up. You knew they were only going to have so many players available for this game. So at this point, I was doing some other stuff. I was doing some design work. I was working on some thumbnails for the Virginia Jets fans group. So I had the game on the radio for a little bit. I was playing a podcast. And then I went over to the gym for a little bit. And I heard there was a rain delay. And then I found out about Nate Fisher. I first saw this. And the Mets have been pulling out these pitchers. I think they've been pulling like popcorn vendors from out of the stands to come down and pitch a couple of innings. You know, who are these people? But you know what? As beleaguered as the Mets bullpen has been this season, outside of Edwin Diaz, you know what? I'll try out somebody from the St. Paul Saints. Give me a guy from the Independent League. Give me a guy from the Mexican League for all I care. You may as well just keep throwing crap at the wall, see what sticks, right? So, but Nate Fisher. There is not one Met fan in the world. I'm sorry, not even like Joe DeMayo, Mike Mayer, the most knowledgeable Mets guys in the world who knew who the heck this guy was 24 hours ago. He was a banker, you know, just 1 year ago. Was not even in baseball. 26-year-old rookie. The Mets picked up his contract today. They put him in this game, and he pitches 3 scoreless innings, 1 hit, 2 walks. But you know what was really impressive? In the middle of his outing, there was a rain delay. And usually when you have a rain delay as a pitcher, that really messes with your timing, and that delay really, you know, it really disrupts your ability to get going again. So the fact that that Nate Fisher was able to pitch, stop, and start again, and still be effective and keep the Mets in this game, I give this guy all the credit in the world. I'm serious. Later this month, they got to have it. You got to have a Nate Fisher bobblehead. I think maybe a Nate Fisher desk mug to honor his banking. City can sponsor it. Citibank should sponsor the Nate Fisher desk mug. Maybe the Nate Fisher alarm clock. Like the whole home and office section on the Mets website, on the Mets shop website, should be a whole line of Nate Fisher banking products. So, hey, I'm all for it. But then we go to the top of the 7, and the Phillies bring in Connor Brogdon, following singles by Pete Alonso and Daniel Vogelbach, Mark Canha. Mark freaking Canha. I was very happy when the Mets signed him. Not because he was like this masher, like this power hitter, but I knew he was a professional. He was going to grind out at bats. He was going to be effective, a good, reliable, solid, everyday piece. Now, it feels like he hasn't been an everyday piece. It feels like he sits like every 1 out of 3 games or so. But he is an incredibly valuable player for this team. And for the people who really thought that he was a failure, there were Mets fans. This is the thing that gets me, okay? I just got to rant on this for a second. After the Mets made their trades at the deadline, when they got Vogelbach and Darren Ruff, okay, there were Mets fans who were saying this proves that the Escobar and the Canha signings are abject failures because they had to sign these guys. I'd like to know what that guy thinks right now. How do you feel about Mark Canha? If you weren't a Mark Canha fan before, how could you not be now? 3-run blast on an inside fastball, up and in, and he turned that thing right around, put it right inside the left foul pole, 7-7 game. And you know what? It felt like at that point, even though the game was far from over, the Phillies were going to Philly and the Mets were going to Mets. And that is usually a derogatory term for the Mets, but you know what it means now? It means grinding out at bats and finding ways to come back. That's what Mets being Mets means now. So so then we had a tie game, and then we go to the bottom of the 8th, and Trevor May comes into the game. It feels like there's a formula with Trevor May and his 7 ERA. He's never going to let the game get completely out of hand. But if you get a scoreless inning out of him, you get down on your knees, you light the candles, and you just say, thank you, God, that he didn't give up a run. Well, in this case, he did give up a run, and who else would do it but a pinch-hitting Jean Segura. Jean Segura, who has tortured the Mets for years. He was one of the best trades the Phillies ever made. I mean, his game-winning home run off Edwin Diaz in 2019. Mike Francesa had an iconic on-game during. He had a rant on his show because the game was going on while he was on the air, and they said they can't bring this guy back anymore. Okay, wait a second. Well, how can they put Diaz back in? You can't bring him back. So I was having some flashbacks of Jean Segura, and sure enough, boom, home run. Phillies on top, 8-7. He also allowed a Kyle Schwarber single, did May, but he did get out of it. 7 freaking ERA for Trevor May. Really, really frustrating. So it was the top of the 9th, and the Phillies bring in David Robertson. Kind of a curious choice considering he threw about 35 to 40 pitches yesterday during the doubleheader. As good as Robertson has been, you just had to wonder if he still had it in him. Because, you pitch these guys too many times in a row, you're eventually going to wear down. You don't want to underuse, but you don't want to overuse either, as we found out in the bottom of the 9th. And we'll get to the bottom of the 9th in a second. But looking at the lineup, as soon as I saw it was Jeff McNeil, Mark Canha, then Brett Beatty, and Michael Perez, I said, the first 2 guys got to do something. Because I just did not have a lot of confidence in Brett Beatty or Michael Perez in this particular spot. Jeff McNeil immediately knocks a double. And then up comes Canha again. Another fastball in. And as soon as he hit that ball, it was a rocket. Just a pure rocket. At this point, by the way, I'm making dinner. I've already cooked some chicken breast. I've got the rigatoni boiling. I got the Rayo sauce ready to go. I'm going to have some chicken and pasta and a little bit of some Zinfandel for dinner. And at this point, everything was pretty much ready. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, this is about the worst timing I could have. How in the world can I eat while this game is going on? This team gives me indigestion naturally, and now I got to try to eat while this is going on. Usually I make a Sunday night pasta dish or something like that. I'm turning on XM radio. I'm playing Simply Sinatra. I'm turning the crooners on. I'm trying to get, the way you look tonight. I'm trying to get that kind of a vibe going. It was going to be Howie Rose and Wayne Randazzo the rest of the way. So Canha torches that ball right out of the yard. And then up comes Brandon Nimmo. Oh, this was great. Oh, thank you so much to the Phillies manager. So after Robertson gets Beatty and Perez out, he brings in this left-handed pitcher that had never pitched in the major leagues before. I guess they saw that the Mets could do it with a rookie pitcher. They figured, why don't we try the same thing? So they bring in this guy Sear, and the second pitch of his career, Brandon Nimmo, boom! Another home run, a much-needed insurance run, and the Mets go up 2. And into the ninth we go. Now, I got to tell you, when Edwin Diaz was coming into the game, I was a little bit nervous just because he had not pitched in, I think, 4 days. Diaz is the type, if you could pitch him every other day, that's really the ideal scenario, we found out. He can pitch back-to-back if he needs to, but when he doesn't pitch for like 3 to 4 days, he doesn't always quite have it as good as you would want. So he immediately gives up 2 singles to I know Castellanos hit one of them. I think it was Real Muto and Castellanos. Yeah, Real Muto and Castellanos on the first pitch of each at bat. So the Phillies came out aggressive, and it was not looking very good. So after Bryce Stott gets forced out and Nick Maton hits a sacrifice fly, it is now 10-9. And then all of a sudden, and this game was big at this point because by now Atlanta had lost. Thank you to the Houston Astros for doing what was needed and finally beating Atlanta. So the Mets had a chance to gain a game on Atlanta, which has not been easy to do. So at this point, they're 4 games up after the Atlanta loss. So this was a chance to go up 5 games in the loss column. Gene Segura comes back up, and this was the last player I wanted to see up. I wanted to pitch around him. If that means you put the winning run in scoring position, you know what? You take your chances and you deal with the 9-hitter in the lineup. It's what you had to do. Works the count full. He walks Segura first and second. And up comes Derek Hall, and it only took, I believe, 4 pitches, but Diaz froze him on an inside fastball at 99 miles an hour and put it in the books. Mets win one of the most amazing regular season games that I have watched or listened to in a long, long time. This, to me, may have been their best win of the regular season because they gained a game. After a disappointing series in Atlanta, I feel like it was pretty important to come back from that, to show that resiliency. And they did. Now they finished 14-5 against the Phillies this season. They don't have to see Philly again the rest of the season unless the 2 teams happen to meet in the playoffs, which is not completely outside the realm of possibility. If the Phillies finish with the last wild card, if they get that 6th spot, and then they beat probably the St. Louis Cardinals in the first round, they're likely to play the Mets, as long as the Mets, of course, hold on to win the NL East. So the Mets are now 12 games up on Philadelphia in the standings. That race is, let's be honest, that race is over. And like I said, 4.5 up on Atlanta, 5 in the loss column. Now it's the 2-game series against the Yankees in the Bronx. I'm very glad that the Mets do not have to see Nestor Cortez. I did not want to see the lefty. And the Yankees, whose offense has been in the toilet lately, well, they get to face 2 guys named Scherzer and DeGrom. They might have heard of them. So that should be a very interesting series. Then 4 games against Colorado, then a series with the Dodgers. Then the schedule really starts to lighten up. That's when the Mets are going to start seeing a whole lot of Washington, Pittsburgh, Oakland, Cincinnati, Milwaukee, who has gone into the absolute tank. By the way, that Josh Hader trade, have you ever seen a trade that worked out that badly for 2 teams? Josh Hader's ERA with the Padres, it's about on the level of what Trevor Mays is this year for the Mets. It's like 7. And trading Hader, it really demoralized the Milwaukee clubhouse. And I got to say, I don't mind the Brewers. I kind of identify with them as a Mets fan, as like that second team, same way I feel about the Chicago White Sox. They're always kind of like under the radar. And so, of course I want the Mets to kick the Brewers' butt when they play them, but I've spent quite a bit of time in Milwaukee, gone to Miller Park. I refuse to call it the other name now. Been there quite a few times, and I've always had a great time. So I got no real issues with the Brewers. But so seeing them trade Hader, it was just such a terrible move for them, and it turned out to be a terrible move so far for San Diego as well. So I am feeling pumped up. This was a fantastic day. I am breathing again, which I don't think I was able to do for a while. And man, oh man, those calls from Gary Cohen, those calls from Howie Rose, man, oh man, how fortunate are Mets fans to have simply the best combination of TV and radio broadcasting in all of baseball, bar none. If Vince Scully isn't around anymore, God rest his soul, the combination of Gary Cohen and Howie Rose, my goodness, it just doesn't get any better than that. All right, on to the Bronx we go, and I'll see you back here for more content from you know where, the Wicker Chair.